In this series of videos teaching about parenting autistic children, I draw on my professional experience of supporting over 1,000 families and working with children and families for over 20 years, as well as my personal experience as an autistic individual. In this video, I'll share about the importance of routines and consistency. As with any child or teen, routines and consistency are important. With autistic children, this is even more important because the uncertainty of not having routines and consistency can cause anxiety for the child. Even with neurotypical children, a lack of routine can lead to the child exhibiting challenging and defiant behaviour. If they have additional challenges like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, then poor routines and lack of consistency can make the child even more difficult to manage. Ideally, clear routines will be in place from birth. No parent is expected to be on top form all the time, but if they're generally exerting positive parenting strategies, then their child is likely to behave better and be more manageable. If a parent hasn't cultivated an environment of consistency as well as boundaries and consequences, and then they suddenly decide to do so, this can be a shock to the child, and many times the child fights against the change. The most important piece of advice I would give would be to stick at it. I've worked with children and teens who've had terrible upbringings, who haven't had routines, consistency or boundaries and consequences, who are incredibly physically violent, and although it can be challenging putting clear routines in place and being consistent and ensuring there are clear boundaries and consequences, has turned out that can turn those children and teens around. It can sometimes take months of persistence to make the changes. Often it takes longer with teens than with younger children, but it works. Having clear routines, consistency, boundaries and consequences works with autistic people with severe learning difficulties or who perhaps are nonverbal or exhibit challenging behaviour or additional challenges like ADHD, etc. But changes or improvements can take much longer, sometimes due to struggles with learning, other times due to struggles more with perhaps communication. As a professional, it's easier for me because I'm not emotionally involved with the children or teens that I'm helping, but I've also worked with hundreds of parents who've successfully implemented routines, consistency, boundaries and consequences and turned their home lives around. In systems theory, when one part of a system changes, the whole system has to change. So if a parent starts doing things differently and sticks at doing things differently, the whole family system has to adjust to this and find a new normal. Ideally, you'll have a routine for the day, so a time when everyone is expected to wake up, perhaps a routine for what someone does if they wake up early, a routine for breakfast time, for getting ready for school, for when and how to leave the home, and an after-school routine, a dinner time routine, a homework routine, a pre-bedtime routine, a bedtime routine, and so on. You may have a different routine for weekends and holidays, although with autistic children it's helpful if this routine isn't too different. And you want consistency, so the routines are what they are. They don't change because it's halfway through the school holidays and it's easier to let the child stay in bed longer, or because it is too difficult to stick to. I had a teen that I worked with who had left the children's home that I was working in, and a couple of years later he came back and visited the home and he spoke with the staff. He said, "Most staff here don't care about me, but I knew you did, because every day you woke me up for school and you kept coming and waking me up, despite me throwing things at you, swearing at you and shouting at you. Even if I didn't go to school and didn't get out of bed, right through to the last minute that I should have been in school, every 10 minutes you were telling me I needed to get up for school now." He went on, "At the time, it used to really annoy me, and it became easier to just get up and go to school on the days that you were working than to stay in bed and know that you'll be harassing me every 10 minutes. But I felt that you cared. The staff who tried to get me up to go to school a few times in the morning and then they just left me in bed all day without trying to get me up again, They only wanted to have an easy shift with the children in bed so that they could just sit around and drink tea. You were willing to work hard and make things difficult for yourself because you felt it was important that we get up and have an education. That teen said that now he had a job and he was getting up for work on time every day and was grateful to the trouble that I went to. You also want consistency with boundaries and consequences. So when your child or teen does something, they get a specific outcome from that, not different outcomes each time. This goes for consequences through negative behaviours right to positive behaviours as well. Thanks for watching. The child is likely to unconsciously pick up whether the parent is relaxed or not, and if they aren't, then the child could end up taking on some of that tension rather than relaxing. If a parent has more than one child,